got a new part in for our Ender 3. We're going to add dual Z upgrade kit. I guess let me show you the one that I picked out here. So this is from Amazon. Apparently I bought it March 22nd, so it just came in a few days ago. Not very expensive, $39. It's not just this coupler. It is all of these pieces. So you get the hardware for mounting it, you get a stepper, you get a cable to split off of the other or existing Z stepper motor, little bracket. Oh, I may or may not use this little bracket. It's for the top, I believe. Coupler. That's the motor mount bracket, and the bracket to mount to the axis so that you can actually lift it. So the idea here is that we will be able to lift both sides of the axis so that there's not any inconsistency in one side lifting faster than the other. Let's look at the Ender 3 and see what that might look like. So here's what we've got. We have a single Z axis right here, and we're going to put another one over here. Problem is we're going to have to move the power supply somewhere. That a lot of times you can relocate that down here. I want this side of the axis to move, or of this rail to move the same time that this side moves. Right now there's just the one rod here that moves it up and down, and there's currently not a lot of difference between when this and this begin to move, but it's forcing me to in order to accomplish that, I'm having to put a lot of pressure on these wheels here. And I've noticed in a couple of prints that at the very bottom, like when I'm way down here somewhere, there is a catch in moving the axis up, and it's resulting in a thicker line in the prints. So if I loosen this or this other one, then this axis has more play in it. You can actually see some play right there. But right now the guide wheels on both sides are actually pretty tight. And the problem with that is, like I said, that they will bind in here and produce some uneven layers. They can even be to the point that if I put too much compression from between the wheel and the rail that it's riding in, and I let it sit for too long, then it can actually have a little bit of a flat spot in the wheel. What I got the parts in. Let's move this out of the way and look at the parts. They came like this. So it came in a box. Now, the box wasn't actually taped up, so it was just wide open, but I think all the parts are in here. I haven't actually looked at all the parts to make sure, but I think they are. So there is that bracket that's going to allow us to mount the Z screw to the actual rail so it does move. Here's a tiny bit of instructions. Now this kit is actually for a CR10, so it does come with a lead screw, the right kind of lead screw, except it's just way longer. It won't even fit on the camera because this is for a CR10, and I could use this, but I do have an extra Ender lead screw. So they're lined up. So there they are lined up. That's how much longer the one in the kit is. I'm just going to use the one I have. You can cut these. You just have to cut them with some kind of abrasive disc or something like that. You're not going to really cut them with a hacksaw or something like that. So I'm just going to keep this one for now and use the correct length that I already have. You get the Z stepper. So this is identical to the Z stepper that's already on the Ender 3. And got our hardware bag. Got our coupler. I like these couplers. They're not as springy, so you don't have as much give in the Y direction. I actually have, and I might put these on this printer, or I actually have some solid couplers that I might actually use and see if that gives me a little more consistency. This is a little bracket that we could use to constrain the top of the Z rod at times, so I don't use those usually. Here's what we have for wiring. So let's see, this should just be a Y cable, I believe. Let's undo it and see. Let's see. So we've got one in, and it splits into two. So we will have to open up our control box to use this one. Some of the kits come with one that you plug into the existing cable that's coming out of your control box. This one needs to go inside the box. That's not a big deal, but it is a little bit of a deal. And that's just the motor mount for the Z stepper. First we got to get this off of here though. So make sure it's unplugged. You don't want to work on the power supply while it's plugged in. And we've got some screws over here. Let's just do a quick test fit of this power supply. See if it's going to work in any way that we'd like. Definitely won't fit with this fan here. Now, if you take both of these screws out at once, the fan's going to fall in. So let's just take one of them out, replace it, and then take the other one out. You do have to be careful with these screws. These are plastic. The screws are not plastic, but they are screws for plastic. If you overdo it, you can easily strip the plastic housing of the fan. All right, let's see if this fits. Right now the cable is holding me up. So one problem right off the bat is going to be with this particular model. Now others do have a thinner power supply that will fit there, and in fact I might have one on another Ender 3 that we can switch out, or well, I repurposed one. Here's the slimmer power supply. Here's the old one. So there's what we had. Here's what we're going to put in there. Quite a bit thinner. It just came off of a newer Ender 3. So we're going to put this power supply. We're going to have to change this out. I'm printing a new one right now. So that means we will have to unplug these wires. So if you're not comfortable doing that, then this would not be the thing to do, because we do need to relocate this, because even on the other Enders, a newer Ender, this is still going to sit right here. Right where we need our dual axis to be. So this is going to end up, it's actually going to turn over this way. It's going to end up under here. Here's the file we're using. We're printing this currently, and there's a piece on the back also. So we're printing those. We'll reuse the power switch and power plug, so won't have to wire anything up. We do have to unplug and plug them in, just to get them out of this piece and into the new piece, but you don't have to rewire anything. And this power supply will plug in just the same as the old one, so that won't be any problem. We may have to rotate this stepper. Currently the wires for this stepper come out the bottom, and that's going to be really close to the power supply. This power supply has to sit up off of the ground because its fan is going to be on the bottom. So we don't want it mashing up against the stepper wire. So we'll probably have to rotate this so the wires come out this side. But all that means is take these screws, rotate it, and put them back in. It's just not a big deal. Currently, we can check on how our print's going. There it is. Looks like we're 71% done with it. So it'll be a while before it gets all the way finished, but hopefully it will come out well. This guy is going to go right here. And in the kit we have these, which are identical to the way the other motor is mounted. Except that I guess the screws to mount into the stepper motor must be in here. So we just put those in there, start the T-nuts a little bit. Not too far, because they have to slide into this rail. Now we need this to mount roughly here. So it has the 3 holes that are gonna go here, and they gave us 3 replacement longer screws that are actually going to use the existing hardware and then mount this plate on top of it. I'll get that kind of in place, and then we'll have to deal with these others. Bolt actually won't go back through, so we actually have to take it apart to get the bolt out and replace it with the longer bolt. Alright, so that involves at least these 2. I don't know if there's others. There we go. Alright, so that's what was in there. The eccentric nut is going to go inside there. Eccentric nut, wheel, then the spacer, then put that back together. I believe we've got everything back mounted. We're going to test see if any of this is lined up. It actually looks lined up pretty well. Okay. But again, we've got the solid coupler on here, so I don't know if that's if we're going to be able to keep the solid coupler or not. This does have some movement in it. Let's see if I can find the right. Yeah, loosen it up, just so we can get it lined just where it needs to be. Yeah, it has a little bit of potential play there. So let's get this more or less right. Okay. Okay. I think everything is more or less square. We're going to have to level the bed once we get it all sorted out. But the next thing is this. Some of these you unscrew the bottom, but this is an older one, like I said, and so it still had the board access from the top, which is nice because you have to turn things over. But why this is on here is because you have a fan sitting on the top that would suck little filament pieces, or you drop a screw in there or whatever, and then you got problems. So this was a common print to stop that from happening. there. Let's go ahead and unplug this TFT. There we go. All right, so we'll just take that out, and whatever printer we put that TFT in, we'll use it again. All right, so the Z, X, Y, Z, and extruder. So Z's in the middle here. Now, I believe I've already unbundled all of, nope, I haven't. So at this point you have to decide, are you gonna leave this stepper wire motor just kind of in here? It's inside a bundle of wires down in here, and currently I'm just gonna leave it in there because I don't wanna, let's get the case fan out of the way. I don't wanna have to try and, I don't wanna cut it out for sure. I don't like doing that when you don't need to, but we're just gonna kind of leave it in here. Oh, actually, you know what? I believe I have already done this to where if I take this and get some room, I actually think we can get it out of that bundle. So we can actually get the Z cable out and put the new one in there. If I can find where I routed it. Now we got way more than we need, but we'll put this back. You kind of want some kind of wrap around there because what they did is they notched this out and it's pretty sharp. Let's plug our Z cable in where it's going to go. This should just plug in with no problem. And again, it's another one that only plugs one direction, so assuming they made the cable correctly, we don't have to worry about if we plug it in backwards or not. Then put our case, and don't forget to reattach your case fan. Okay, our parts are done. Printed parts are done. So we need to get our plug back in here. So I've pulled the wires, well, three wires. Be able to plug it in, and this lines up with the hole that was being used to mount to the rail over here, or at least one of them. Same thing over here. This should fit in there. I'm using all of the hardware that was already on, you know, holding this on. And so we haven't had to round up any new hardware anywhere, which is always nice. So I have this that should have one. It's going to work. I don't have one quite as short. We'll just stack up a couple of washers here and let that take up our extra slack. These are slightly too big, but I think they'll work. And now it won't actually make contact with whatever. It might be fine. I don't know what's inside there at that point. But I don't want to take it apart just to find that out or anything like that. So this little kit, or a kit like this, that just has a lot of M3, 4, and 5 bolts of various lengths, is pretty handy when you're working on these printers, because most all of them use that size screw, and it's good to have a selection of those things for jobs just like this. I got it off of Amazon. Now, I think what we're supposed to do is this is supposed to slide in here, which means we're going to have to remove the end caps. I think that one survived too. Now we do need, or I want to anyway, I don't know if we need to, it would probably fit. It would fit, but it would put these stepper motor wires in pretty much a right angle bend, and I don't like that, so we're going to reorient this stepper motor. I'm trying to get all this extra stuff out of the way. All right, so that's these 4 screws. Do is turn it that way and put all the screws back in. Let's go ahead and plug our power supply in. These little things, in some of these older Ender 3s, you do need to make sure that they're not soldered, that they're crimped. These are crimped. Some of the early ones had soldered, connect wires were soldered in there, and those had a tendency to have a failure right here. All right. Pretty well lined up. I think there is for this one. Our power here. There's probably a little bit of wire cable management we can do with all of this, particularly this Z stepper motor cable. Too much of this will interfere with our cable that's going to contain the heated bed and bed thermistor wires. So we do want to get this arranged somehow. I'm not too concerned with it right now because I don't plan on printing right away, but we do need to figure out something better with these wires. We'll work on that later. Adjusting on this area, basically, and it's still not as straight as I would like it, but these screws, there's this one and the one inside there that hold this inner bracket to the rail. If you loosen those, you can twist this a little bit, not a lot, not nearly as much as I'm moving here, but you can twist it some. And so I loosened them up, tried to get them so that this bar was more or less level with the gantry itself, with the whole system. And I've got it close, and I think it is time to plug it in, turn it on, and see if both of these Z axes move at the same time. Okay, we're ready to see if it will move. I've got the power on. You might can hear it running. Most of that sound is actually the cooling fan for the hot end. We've got our manual control over here. We're just going to try to home. Let's do X and Y first. So there we go with X. Now Y, we do still have to work on our cable management down here. That worked fine. Let's home Z. And they're both turning like we want. They're both turning the same direction. That's good. Same rate. That's good. Although they are coming off of this exact same output. So it's just split into 2 cables. So that does make sense, but it means that the cable and the stepper are wired, both of them the same, which is good. So I think the next step is going to be we need to level our bed, and then we need to do a test print before we do any of the clipper input shaping type things, but get it working, printing, and then we might do some more tuning, cable fixing. Okay, we've got our first print, or our first print after the Dual Z upgrade, and this is it. This is the Voron. Now our printer is not a Voron printer. But this is the Voron calibration cube, and it came out really well. It was printed 100 millimeters per second. It took about an hour to print. I don't see any Z banding, but there are a lot of ringing artifacts, ghosting. Let's see if I can get it to focus on some of those, or at least be able to see some of those. You can sort of begin to see them there, right in there. Maybe if we have a light that we can shine across it, you might can see them better. They're pretty prominent in person, particularly on that side. There are a lot of ringing artifacts. I'll have to try and get a picture to show so you might can see them. It doesn't like ruin the effect of the print, but it's generally not, you know, the surface is not that attractive with those ringing. There you can see actually some of them on there. Those extra lines, those aren't in the model. Here's the model. Is what we're aiming for. This little guy. We did 100 millimeter print speed. We did 0.2 millimeter layer height, 2 walls, 4 top and bottom layers. So pretty average print as far as the print goes. It says it took 1 hour and 20 minutes. You know, I didn't actually look to see how long it took. Let's see if I can. It actually took 56 minutes and 28 seconds on the actual print time. So here's the panel from where we printed it right there. So it ended up taking just under an hour. It estimated an hour. I did use Arc Welder on it, so that's an Octoprint plugin. All right, I hope that's useful, and hopefully it gives you an idea of what all is involved in changing from a single Z lead screw to a dual Z lead screw on an Ender 3. Relatively inexpensive upgrade. And we can see if it actually makes a big difference. I didn't notice, so our end goal was that I did not notice Z banding. Now, there's a lot that could be hidden in here underneath all these other artifacts from the ghosting, but I don't see anything that makes me think the Z axis is binding anymore, like it was before. So far, so good. We'll see you in the next one.